What's up, everybody? Welcome back to ALLSMITH. Today's conversation is with a good friend. He's a filmmaker, a storyteller, an adventurer, a new father, and one of the smoothest duo in fitness media. He's from the Buttery Bros. And if you've spent any time around CrossFit, fitness documentaries, or behind-the-scenes storytelling, or people doing ridiculous things with cameras, running shoes, questionable decision-making, you know the vibe that we're about to jump into today. But I will be honest with you. We're going to go a little deep. Today's conversation is bigger than CrossFit. It's about evolution. It's what happens when fitness starts to change shape. We're going to dive into new dad life, the identity shift that comes when you're building a family while building a brand, or in this case, a couple of brands. The future of Buttery Bros, the changing landscape of CrossFit and fitness, and the introduction of high rocks for many people. And of course, we're going to explore what he just did, the run to rim, endurance, suffering, storytelling, and the connection with HWPO. And why you crazy humans keep signing up for hard things that make no logical sense. Today's conversation is going to be playful, reflective, and exciteful. Ladies and gentlemen, Marston Sawyers. Welcome to the show, man.
Dude, thanks for the intro. That was awesome. I'm happy to be here. Good to catch up with you, Bryce.
I'm stoked to just connect with a friend, man. Like, you've been there for me in some of the most vulnerable times. But, man, to echo Matthew McConaughey, you've been living, man. Livin. Like, since we last saw each other a couple of years ago, like, you've become a father. You've done a hair transplant. You've done the rim to rim. You've done all kinds of CrossFit experiences. First and foremost, how the fuck are you, my friend?
Dude, I'm so good, you know? Like, we've been on a whirlwind tour, like, kind of just been traveling a ton lately. So right now I'm in Palm Desert at our, my partner, her family's house. And this is the first time we've got to come out here, and it's been super relaxing. So taking some very much needed, like, a breath of fresh air and some downtime from being on the road and traveling and just producing shows and stuff like that. But I'm good, man. I'm never better.
I love it, dude. That's something that's interesting within hustle culture, right? Like, taking a beat or pressing that pause button or taking a moment to step away from the grind. Sometimes for high performers like yourself that are used to being fast with Heber and Julian and kind of just being in the mix, there's sometimes like a FOMO or a subtle guilty conscience that lives rent-free in your mind. How have you, over the course of the last 2 decades, really, or somewhere in the middle of that, realized how important it is to really step away so that way you create space to keep going long term?
Yeah, it's definitely something that I need to do more of, because, I mean, it's funny, like, I'll go on all these trips and then I'll come home, and then Caitlin, my partner, she's always like, hey, we should go somewhere. And I'm like, I just got home. Like, trying to go somewhere else now is kind of like tough, but it's important to do those things with your partner and at least find the time to go reconnect together and do something that is going to bring you back to, you know, back to center.
Totally.
So we do this, and you know, another thing we've done in the past, we go to Burning Man together, and I feel like that's like such a cool, you know, shut the world off from all the distractions that happen, and you don't have self-service and everything. So we just like go into this bubble for a week and get to experience a really cool out of the box, you know, connection together. So
I love that. A really close friend of mine said to me once, the things that get scheduled are the things that get done. And I pushed back against that for so long. So I was like, spontaneity, like, I don't know where I'm going to be in a week. Like, I don't want to plan too far ahead, but you're spot on, man. Like, you need that time away, and you need that time to be like, hey, let's go get into a different energy. Let's get away from the cell phone. Let's get away from the day-to-day grind. Let's connect with one another. But what it also does is it's perspective architecture for you. You being a storyteller and a creator and an innovator, like seeing colors, listening to other people's stories, being able to share the cathartic experience with all of that, probably like is an iOS upgrade, like an operating system upgrade for you and Buttery Bros to better understand, like, oh, now you're going to come back with some space, some different lenses. Now the YouTube videos are going to be better. Your friendship's going to be better. Your connection's going to be better. What advice would you give to other creators that are constantly feeling that magnetic pull of like, fuck, I got to keep creating or, I'm going to miss out. But, it sounds like, you get maybe 3, maybe 4 times a year where you can kind of step away and just like reset and recalibrate and plug the iPhone in a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I like the way I feel the most creative is when I feel inspired by either art or people or hearing stories, so getting out of the grind of the hustle of like almost forcing that creativity. And it's like we go from one project to the next project to the next project, and it's like constantly trying to find like something that's going to be interesting to our viewers or just even to us. Like I feel like the most important thing is that we're doing stuff that we really enjoy, and in order to do that, I feel like we have to find the inspiration. And, a lot of the times, like a good example is like in rim to rim, I'm talking to my closest homies and we're out there and we're off the grid. And I feel like this is some of the most special stuff, being able to do a really hard task with somebody and somebody you care about and get to go into that really painful, most challenging, hardest thing I've ever done type of stuff that really kind of inspires you. That for me personally, I came out of there with, a deeper bond with all my guys and a new like perspective on what I want to do moving forward. And so I guess what I would say to other people is go do really hard stuff with your closest homies, and that'll draw inspiration.
This episode is brought to you by ALLSMITH. If you've been listening for a while, you know this is bigger than just workouts. At ALLSMITH, fitness is the vessel. Life is the true mission. We help people upgrade not just their body, but their routines, their mindset, their energy, their confidence, their relationships, and their overall direction. Some people work with us in person through coaching, through accountability, through movement, through community, and through real human connection. Others choose to work with us online from anywhere in the world through customized programming, lifestyle design, habit building, check-ins, support, and a system built around your actual life. Because the goal isn't perfection. The goal is creating a life that feels aligned, resilient, energized, and truly sustainable. If you feel stuck, if you've been putting yourself absolutely last in all the things in your to-do list, if you want support, structure, accountability, and community that genuinely gives a damn, ALLSMITH might be your next step. Movement is the entry point. Your peak expression is the destination. Head over to allsmith.co or shoot me a message on Instagram at @TheRealBryceSmith, or shoot a message to our team at ALLSMITHCO, and let's build something beautiful. Yeah, you and Heber have done an amazing job of blending the line between work and play. And it's funny because so many people from the outside looking in create the famous Cameron Hanes phrase, must be nice. And it's like, when you're doing what you love, the world thinks you don't work a day in your life. But knowing you guys, seeing your work ethic behind the scenes, and then also knowing it firsthand now in entrepreneurship, it's like when you love what you do, you work way more than you worked when you worked for somebody else. But what's funny, what's funny is the tools are lighter, and you have a lot more fun doing it. And like you said, you're building memories with your homies. You're also created the energy and the bond to capture such unique moments of like, no, this is us being unapologetically ourselves. We're not practicing the art of like performative culture in front of a camera. So I think what you guys are doing is so authentic and so freaking cool. But Marston, how the fuck do you stay motivated to do this? Because some of this stuff is hard, like really hard, not just a little hard, but like really brutal. Like, how do you say yes and then figure it out later?
Good question, you know, because it, it is it's a grind, and it's not something that like I think a lot of people could probably sign up to do, just because we're on the road so much. It's hard to be away from your people, from your family. And I don't know. I feel like if I get presented an opportunity and I think about it and I'm like, if I don't go on this, will I regret the
Good question.
opportunity and have it like we had a week to decide to go to Japan to go do this. We did the Red Bull 400 where you run up the ski jump. And I was like, that's something I've kind of always wanted to do whenever I've seen that. And, you know, we, at the time we had just got back from London. We've been doing work for a World Fitness Project. And we also had the Rim to Rim at the end of this month. But that was such a cool opportunity. I'm like, when am I going to get the opportunity to get taken to Japan and run up a ski jump? So it's like, will I regret not going? Yeah. And I'm like, how do I present this to Caitlin and actually get to pull it off? And she was like, thought about it. And she was like, you've been gone so much lately, and I've been trying to handle being a solo parent while you're gone. How are we going to pull this off? And I was like, okay with saying no to it. But at the end of the day, she sees like what it meant to me. And, you know, she's more than accommodating. She's handled a lot of the load lately just because it's hard to be solo parenting. And, you know, at the end of the day, she was like, hey, I think you should go to Japan. I think you should go do that. And I was like, okay.
It just
Thank
goes
you.
to show energetically, like, I mean, Chris Williamson says this on Modern Wisdom, like probably, and I've now experienced this firsthand, and you have too, like the decision that you make for your life partner is probably the number one most important decision that you make in your life. Because it's not just a romantic and a physical intimacy connection. It's a business transaction. It's a connection of like, hey, I have your back, you have my back. We're going to figure this out. We're going to fight fair. We're not going to try to be right. We're going to find the middle ground and try to find what is right for both of us. And that takes a lot of compromise, a lot of sacrifice, physical, mental, emotional, and financial contribution. And it's just so cool to hear that you've found that, and that you guys can have those hard conversations, and also realize like the biggest probably quote when you look at deathbed conversations, or when you look at the graveyard, it's like the pain of regret is significantly worse than the pain of suffering. So the travel, the financial contribution, getting your ass out to Japan and then embarking in the situation, having the experience, documenting it, going through the peaks and valleys of editing and the logistics with Julian and Heber. It's like, man, oh man, like people don't see the behind the scenes. They see the 25 to 50 minute YouTube video and they're like, oh, that's dope. These guys are living the life. They don't know the behind the scenes of all the contributions that went into that, and the tribe of people that's supporting you, i.e. Caitlin, in your specific case. We discuss like how that navigates in your headspace cognitively, because you're so much more as a man and as a human than just the Buttery Bros, than just podium.
Yeah, I mean, since having a kid, you know, like I now have a 10-month-old. His name is Sage. He's just like the happiest, playfulest little boy, you know. So every time I leave, it's a sacrifice, you know, and it's not like easy for me to leave him and not be there for these very pivotal moments where he's developing, and there's a lot of developments that happen every day with him. And so it's like I'm stepping away to do this thing that is for me and for my business, and it seems like on one hand kind of selfish, but I also am trying to provide for him and provide for my family and look for the best opportunities out there to be able to seize the day, you know. And so yeah, I guess what was your question?
No, I think you just getting a little share behind the curtain, like the cognitive process. Like when you're making a decision to go to a trip or go to a job, it's so much more than just about the money and the job. it's also who's
Yeah.
gonna be there to support my partner, who's gonna be there to support my child, how's home life gonna be, how are the bills gonna get taken care of. Like, there's a lot more that goes into it than just what people observe or see on the YouTube channel.
Yeah. And, a few years ago, it was, I could fly off the seat of my pants just because, I was single and I didn't have a child. And so it was like, yeah, I'll go wherever, whenever, And so now there's a lot more that goes into those situations and a lot more into the decisions that I make and how will it impact others. So, I feel like way more adulting's going on these days,
What's it like being a dad, dude? Like 10 months
Dude.
you mentioned. How'd you guys come up with the name Sage, and how has it been just being in this new chapter of your life?
It's been such a crazy different perspective on life. I didn't know if I was ever going to be a parent or be a father. Like, I feel like growing up, I never got a healthy example of home life or like what it was going to, to be a father, to be in a healthy partnership. And so I know that was really important to Caitlin. And, years in, she was like, I definitely want to have a kid. I want to have a family. If you don't feel like you want that same thing, we should go our separate ways, because I'm trying to do that. And after many self-discovery moments and a lot of conversations with her, we both decided that was what we wanted. And that was a scary situation for me, just because I knew how much that was going to affect work and how much that was going to kind of put things into a whole new realm. And, she was timing her cycles and everything. And she's like, hey, right now. And it didn't take long. It took it took a single try, really. And then she was like, hey, I'm pregnant. We're having a kid. And I was like, wow, okay, this is all happening, but it actually felt right in my body. Like, I always thought receiving that news would create a lot of anxiety and a lot of like, oh no, but I was finally in a place at life at 38 years old to hear that news and actually be excited and be like, I'm stoked to be in this with you. I feel like we're going to crush this, And so we started planning that, and we ended up going to Tulum together, and we were sitting in this tree house and we were trying to come up with names. And I wrote a list of a bunch of names. We didn't know if we were having a boy or a girl. She wrote a list, and then we compared our lists, and on both of our lists was Sage.
Oh, that's cool.
I was like, I like Sage for a boy or a girl. Like, I think it can go either way. And she's like, I agree. And I'm like, well, if you find a name you like more in the meantime, let me know. And we didn't, and that was the name we landed on. And he was born on July 30th of last year. And talk about just a whole another lens of looking at life, like you get to re-experience things from your own childhood and the way that, he sees the world, you see it through his eyes. And I think of like him looking at me and me looking at myself as, if I was my own father type of thing, and thinking like, how can I provide for what's best? And I look at me and Caitlin as a unit, and I'm like, man, I feel like he's a pretty lucky kid because we love him so much, and we're both very intentional, and at a time in life where we can give him the attention he needs and the time that he needs. And if I was younger, if I was in my 20s, it'd be a totally different experience for him. So I'm really grateful and glad that I waited this long, because it's calling to me now, where it never had before. And I feel like I waited for the right season of time and season of life to really step into this,
This episode of ALLSMITH is brought to you by our friends over at Kalo and their new smart ring. I've been wearing the Kalo smart ring the past few months, and I love how simple it is. It seamlessly fits within my lifestyle and is not invasive into any elements of my life. It tracks my sleep, my movement, my heart rate, my HRV, my stress, my body temperature, and it gives you real awareness around your lifestyle and how it's impacting your recovery and performance. What makes it perfect for me is simply the versatility. I can wear it while coaching, while training, while working, while sleeping, or just living life, and it quietly collects the data in the background. And the best part is it's under $200 and there's zero subscription. No monthly fees, no gimmicks, just clean, affordable health tech. Head over to kalo.com/allsmith and use code ALLSMITH at checkout to get your discount. You can also find it at select Walmart stores and at walmart.com. Now let's get back to the show. I love to hear it, man. You learn this more through comedy than anything, how important timing is, the way a joke lands or the way like you deliver something. And I think parenthood and bringing a child into the world is very similar. Like there's certain boxes you want to check. There's certain energy that you want to play with and navigate with, whether it's as a man or as a woman, and finding that partner that you can truly trust, that has your back when you're at your worst and you have her back when she's at her worst. I'm stoked for you guys. I think the name Sage is great. I also think just the story of being in a treehouse in Tulum is pretty dope. Like that's badass.
Yeah.
Real cool.
It was
I think that's special, man. I'm curious. So when I've spoken to really close friends of mine that have kids, right? Like you and I are similar age. I'm 36. All my friends are having kids. My brother's got 2. Like there's just, I'm the funkle right now, the fun uncle. And the thing that's interesting is that like for the first like 6 to 12 months, the man is like, I helped co-create this thing. But all I do is change diapers and I'm not really useful. The baby is kind of a vegetable and wants to breastfeed and just shit and sleep. And it's an interesting psychology for a man to try to understand like what is my role here? And for most people that I've spoken to, it's like, hey, your role is to support your wife. Create the best environment for her to breastfeed, minimize stress, change diapers when you can. Knowing very well that like it's the true most biological example of like delayed gratification, which is, hey, at a year and a half, potentially 2 years, now your role is upgraded a lot. Like you're going to be really interacting with your child. How have you guys navigated that conversation and how have you understood your role with the travel and then also understanding like, hey, I need to support Caitlin to the maximum capacity when I'm in town, and then obviously she's got it when I'm gone.
Yeah, it's been super eye-opening just of what's demanded of a woman during pregnancy and everything leading up, and just like what I didn't understand is like how much time they have to give just breastfeeding, dude. Mm-hmm. Like I thought like, they breastfeed and like, until you're like in it and you're like, oh, they're tethered to that kid every 2 hours for the first 6 months, 7, 8, 9 months. That was wild to me. And I was like, man, what she's doing for him is so much more than I can provide right now. So anytime I could take a little bit of that off of her and, be more of the, it's not balanced partner, but I'm just trying to like you said, support her as best I can. So every morning, like when he gets up, I go get him up and it's pretty special. I get to like wake him up and bring him into the world every day. And I change his diaper and I'm just hugging him and I'm loving on him. And then I bring him to Caitlin and she breastfeeds him. And so stuff like that, and anytime I can, cook dinner and do things around the house that are just helpful. I'm trying to think of things that she's not asking me for that I can just kind of do. And then if things are just running smoothly, I feel like I'm kind of doing my job.
I like that lens, man. It's pretty freaking cool. Real quickly, based on the risk tolerance that you've developed, you and Heber, and now Julian, in your life and in the journey that you guys have created with Buttery Bros, has becoming a father shifted your relationship with risk or with suffering or ambition or fitness?
Dude, 100%. Just because I was coming out of the rim to rim, it was the hardest thing I've ever done. And the wind picked up and it was hard and it was shitty. Like, don't get me wrong, there was a lot of good stuff that happened, but getting out of there, I was by myself. It was the sun had set, and I'm trying to not get blown off the cliff because it's thousands of feet to your death, you know? And I was just thinking the whole time, I was like, you got people who care for you at home. You have a kid at home that's depending on you. You know, she's depending on you. I was just like, that's all I was thinking about. I was just thinking about my family. I mean, you know, at the time it was just at the end of, you know, we were hiking for 19 hours and I was at mile 42 of 45, you know, and I was just like kind of at my wit's end. But I think about those things all the time, you know, like now it's like, how safe are these things and how much do I really need to push the envelope to make a video, you know? And, you know, I still enjoy doing things that are risky and hard, but I'm thinking in the back of my head, like, is this the best thing I can do? Or is this the safest thing, you know? Because a lot of the things we do are kind of risky. And so, you know, I'm actually just trying to put everything into perspective of how it could affect the people that are depending on me, you know?
And I think it's a good leash to put yourself on because, I mean, we could sit here and have the comparison of, does dad life make you softer or sharper or, you know, stay hard, as David Goggins would say. But then the other part of that question is like, is hard doing the volatile thing, or is hard pressing pause and realizing that, like, hey, I made a commitment and I want to commit to being a father and a partner and a business owner and continue doing the things that I love? Because I would argue, man, especially when you look at the CrossFit space and you look at the business space, you look at the podcast space, you're not actually, as Alex Hormozi would say, trying to win. You're trying to outlast. And that's something I've really admired about you and Heber and the Buttery Bros is just, you guys have stayed consistent, man. Ever since that tough day where, you know, things shifted with CrossFit HQ, you guys were let go of a job. You're trying to figure out what's next. It's a pretty popular story that you've shared on often, but it's also easy to be like, hey, I'm coming out of the gate in this new entrepreneurial journey and I'm sprinting. And you and I both know if you sprint in Murph, since we're coming off of Memorial Day, you're going to gas out. But it's like,
burn out quick.
Yeah, but being able to pace yourself in entrepreneurship, in fatherhood, and as a friend and as a human being, like, there's something to that has a phenomenal correlation or transferable skill from CrossFit into life. How's it been for you to understand that level of pacing? Because I'm sure there's been moments where you and Heber have looked at each other like, man, like, we're trying to do this because we love it, but he's got kids, there's travel, there's money, there's planning, there's, man, that video didn't do so well, but we put a lot of money into it. There's sponsor relations and relationships with brands and with companies. There's a lot of intangibles monetarily that at the end of the day, if you don't have cash flow, like, you don't really have a culture, you don't really have a brand. How have you guys navigated those intertwining conversations between personal and professional? And like, we're going to try to keep doing this thing, but we also need to monetize it appropriately. So analytics actually matter.
Dude, that's one of the hardest things for us, you know, just because my backstory is, you know, I worked for CrossFit and then they let us go. And that was actually the best thing that could have happened to me at the time because I was forced out of this like cozy nest that, you know, I worked with all my homies and we all got to work this job where we'd go work out together every day. We'd play spike ball. I mean, we'd work really hard and we'd produce cool content that we were proud of, but it was like enough cush to like keep in it and stay there, you know? So I was forced out of that and, you know, it was almost like you're pushed out of the nest and I hope you can fly, you know?
Yep.
And the only thing that I knew is like, if I was doing this for somebody else and it was working, I think I could do it for myself and make it work as well, you know? So I didn't have an alternative plan. I didn't have like a backup or a plan B. I was just like, let's just go out and make content that we're passionate about. And I think that the audience that was there for us will follow. And thankfully they did. And we were able to create content around YouTube and then make documentaries and stuff like that. But, you know, it's evolved a lot. Like CrossFit's gone through ups and downs. And, you know, I think that that whole space is very kind of in this like transitional period that nobody really knows where it's going to go. Because for the longest time, it just seemed like it was on the up and up and everything was going to work itself out with the CrossFit Games and everything. But I think that people kind of got fatigued of that. And I think that there's just too much competition now. Like there's High Rocks and there's Ethics and there's World Fitness Project and there's a new competition like popping up almost every day, you know, like I see them all the time. And so I think that the audience that was all going to this one thing, which was CrossFit, is now like, oh, there's many different things that we can go do now. And with us, like it creates a lot of opportunities, but it also kind of splits and divides our audience from what we were doing in the past. You know, like if I look at our audience and I was like, you know, if it's, I don't know, 80 to 90% CrossFit people, but that audience is less interested in CrossFit, I'm like, do you keep serving an audience that is diminishing, or do you try to, you know, evolve and go on to something else or grow outside of it, or, you know, bring them with you into this new journey that you're going on? And so that's kind of where we've been for the past little while. Like at the end of the day, like I love the CrossFit community, and I'm very grateful and thankful that I was able to start my career there and build a brand in that space. But now we're just kind of on this evolve or die type of situation where if we stay in this same thing, I think that it's almost like we're not going to get out of the current trends that are happening. And I think that getting out and doing more things that are just in, you know, that we're both interested in, that we actually find enjoyment in, and, you know, creating art for yourself and not succumbing to like the algorithm or what you think is going to do well or what your audience wants. I think that's really where I've tried to like, you know, latch myself onto, because I think at the end of the day, if I'm making stuff that is fulfilling to me and putting me in situations that are growing my life resume and my experiences like that, you know, I think that that's really what's going to allow us to keep doing this for years and years. You know, I don't know how long I'll be doing this, you know, like I don't think am I going to be 55 running around doing Buttery Bros? I don't know. I still think I'll be producing content and producing videos. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't have like a 10-year plan or anything like that. I just am like trying to find things that are, you know, challenging, that I feel like people can relate to, that, you know, there's been a lot of vulnerability episodes that we've done. Like you mentioned like the hair transplant and stuff like that. Like that has nothing to do with CrossFit or my past or anything. It was just like a cool story that I thought that if I was going to be vulnerable, it could maybe give somebody else the opportunity to do the same thing. And it really has been pretty cool when people reach out and they're like, hey, I was thinking about this and I saw that you did it, and I really appreciated that you were, you know, upfront and honest about your experience and how it affected you, and I'm actually going to go do it myself. And so it's almost giving people permission to talk about it and open up about it, because, you know, I think that for me personally, like when I was like, I'm going to do this, and not only am I going to do this, I'm going to put myself on blast and tell everybody about it. And it was like, do I want to do this? It was like, oh, this kind of feels hard, you know, it feels hard to be that vulnerable or tell somebody about something that is a little bit sensitive to me. But as I talked about it and was more public facing about it, it actually was like, oh, this is comfortable. And I feel like this is actually of value to people in my network, people in my audience and stuff like that. So
this episode is supported by ALLSMITH Apparel. And honestly, this isn't just merch. It's a reminder that growth is forged, not found. That discipline is care. That consistency is freedom. That community is medicine. We created ALLSMITH for the people chasing something deeper than just aesthetics. People building businesses, healing, starting over, showing up tired, but showing up anyway. People truly seeking edges. When you wear ALLSMITH, you're not just wearing a logo. You're wearing a mindset, a conversation starter, a flag for people who believe movement, mindset, adversity, and intentional living can help shape a beautiful life. We are ALLSMITHs. Check out our latest apparel drops and our ALLSMITH apparel at allsmith.co. And thank you for helping us build this thing together. Yeah, I think you're spot on in realizing that vulnerability breeds vulnerability. And here's the other thing, man. Like, I know, the business world loves to say, what's your 3-year, what's your 5-year, what's your 10-year plan? I think those are like mental masturbation. It's like awesome to say, when you're in a goal setting exercise, but the reality is that the human experience is very malleable, and being able to say yes to spontaneous experiences, realizing like, oh wow, I'm a father now. Myself and my partner Caitlin are going to harmonize this child into our life, and we're going to try to keep doing the things that we love for as long as we can. There's also proof of concept that other friends of yours, Tommy just had a child, Heber's got children, Sean's got children. Like, there's a lot of people in your network and in your world that have shown proof of concept of like, hey, we can make this work. And if we need to adapt, that's a private conversation between you and your tribe to adapt accordingly. And I think it's cool too, man, that like, how many people in the world are navigating hair loss, especially men that are after the age of 30. They're trying to figure out how to like still be a weekend warrior, take care of themselves, do the things they love, be a great business person, be a great father, husband, all the things. And the hairline starts to recede. And whether that's toxicity from the world, stress, genetic challenges, supplemental, something associated with hormone replacement therapy or something there, all it does is it just allows the conversation to float to the surface a little bit and be like, hey, let's talk about this. Here's my situation, and I'm going to grant you a safe space to talk about the hard shit that typically say, yeah, I'm fine, whatever. But like, it's interesting how in the world, Marston, like the world believes in Wi-Fi, but between humans, there's like an energy there. And that energy is sometimes just like, hey, I see you, I feel you. Even though you're saying you're fine, like there'll be a time and a place where we can dive into this and realize that we can help explore some of those deep, dark corners that are serving as like a weight vest in your life. And you feel like there's no answer or outlet. But by doing a video like that, it's pretty cool. It gives somebody an outlet. Like I have a good friend that went down to Mexico and did a hair transplant. You're looking at all these various red light therapies. There's the serious conversation around stuff like that. And then there's the humorous conversation, like the self-deprecating, like let's make jokes about this type stuff that also is fun. And so it's like, there's so many different angles as to how to approach it. And I just think you guys are making humor your default emotion. And in doing so, you're also doing hard shit. You're finding ways to add value. You're bringing on like really valuable, important people and like depth of relationships and connection. And that's what I wanted to ask you next is you guys have access to some of the cream of the crop when it comes to human beings. Matt O'Keefe, Matt Frazier, Brooke Wells, like all these people that have done some amazing things within the health and wellness space. How have you guys fostered those meaningful relationships over a couple decades where there's trust on both sides, where they're not like, oh, that person's just trying to use me to build their brand. Like, oh, there's a mutual respect on both sides. What does that relationship building look like for you guys? And you're super busy in and of itself. So the fact that you're fostering those connections and creating a safe space is really important for people to understand.
Yeah, we've been super fortunate to, run in circles with some really incredible people. And I think that, there's probably a persona of like who we are when you see us on our show, and then like maybe a different perspective once you get to meet us in person, because I think we're, at the end of the day, genuine. I don't want to like toot my own horn, but I think that we're just like genuinely good friends to the people that are in our circle, and
I agree.
we're not trying to like, use people or anything like that. I think that anytime that you can, like the old saying, the ships, all tides rise the ships, whatever it is.
Yep. A rising
but I
tide
think
lifts
that
all boats.
That's the one. Who's going to carry the boats? So over time, we, stay in touch with these people. And I think that our network becomes their network. And, like if there's somebody that I think would be a good fit for any of these people that we're talking about to get in touch, like we're always connecting people, and I think that it's pretty special when you can be like, hey, I know a guy that if you're looking for X, Y, and Z, this is a good guy that you should reach out to. And, connecting the dots and stuff like that. So, Matt O'Keefe has been a big mentor for us. Like when we first started Buttery Bros, it was like, hey, what do we do? He's like, hey, you should make a pitch deck. And I'm like, can you show me what that looks like? And so, he was a great guy, and he's just like one of the closest homies. We just did Rim to Rim with him. And I think that over the years, that relationship has just continued to become like something that I can lean on. Like I can call him at any moment and just be like, hey, I'm going through a tough situation, or I need some business advice, or, and vice versa. Like he'll hit us up and be like, hey, we're looking to do this project and we'd like you to be a part of it. And it's cool that we can kind of just jump in and out of different things together. And, whether that's, we own a company together, me and Matt Fraser, we own a supplement company called Podium. So it was cool that, right when he was retiring, I was like, hey, I think that this would be a fun thing for us to all kind of go do together. And it kind of turned that relationship from it just being like, I'm a content creator and I'm making videos about this really cool athlete, to now we're business partners and we're kind of in this thing together. And it's our best collaborative effort to make this thing successful, and Julian is one of our closest homies. We worked together at CrossFit. He was our graphics guy. He just was always the funnest energy, and I was always like, man, it'd be awesome if we could work together someday, and he was working at the Raiders when we first left CrossFit, and he ended up not wanting to take the job to move to Vegas because he didn't want to be in Vegas. And I was like, hey man, if you're just between stuff, why don't you just come with us on some shoots? And that turned into basically the third wheel on our Buttery Bros world tour. So now we're constantly traveling around, and and a recent one, Chris Hinshaw is one of just a brilliant mind when it comes to like endurance, and when it comes to like training and what you got to do to prepare your body, and the different hacks you can do, and the different ways to look at zone 2 training and how that affects your VO2 max and everything. And I can hit him up at any moment and be like, hey, there's this thing that we got coming up. How do you suggest we get ready for it? And he'll be the guy to, kind of lean on for stuff like that. So there's constant intertanglements of different relationships that have kind of come through the years that we've kind of tried to foster and keep those relationships strong. Another one that I could think of is Brooks Like I met him on an early Buttery Bros show in LA, and I just immediately latched onto the guy's energy because he's such a adventurer, like bright guy, loves life, loves the things that he can offer. And, you know, he's just somebody I find really inspiring because of like not only what he did in his 17 or 18 year NHL career, but just like what he's doing now and like trying to create like a really cool travel experience for people with his World Fitness World Playground project. So he's doing really cool stuff, and he's, you know, now getting married to Katrin at the end of the summer. And Katrin's a really good friend of ours who is the 2-time CrossFit champion. And it's cool that, you know, not only did I get to meet all these people through work, but we're really good friends. And, you know, I'm going to their wedding, and it's a pretty cool network of people.
I love that. Brooks is dope. I ran into him at one of the CrossFit games when he was walking his dogs. I think he's got like...
He takes the dog everywhere, dude.
The husky, yeah. Right?
Coda, yeah.
Yeah, and I got to chop it up with him just about dogs, about travel, about the transition. I mean, for me, it was basketball to CrossFit and then CrossFit to entrepreneurship. And that in between is weird, man. Like, you're trying to figure out so many different things. You're lost. Like, I'm stoked that you guys got to connect with Matt O'Keefe because, honestly, dude, I've done over 300 podcast episodes now, and I still lean on this very simple thing that he and I talked about. We were chopping it up around putting your freaking grocery cart away. And Matt goes, yeah, my focus every single day is to just do the next right thing. And I was like, wow, how simple and profound is that? And like, you could get into, you know, get lost in the sauce and be like, what is the right thing? What is this? But it's like intuitively you kind of know, but you're always like, you know, manipulated over, oh, is this going to make me more money? Is this going to do this? Is this going to do that? And like, there's different variables to take into consideration when making any decision, but you know when it's the right thing. And I thought that the way Matt said that, connecting with Brooks, understanding Matt Frazier now, being able to spend some time with him and Sammy out at the former, the Noble Film Festival, and chop it up with those guys, and just like Sammy's passion around food, man, oh man, the way she can combine ingredients and nutrient density, I'm like, whoa. There's levels to this game. And like just kind of flipping through her cookbook, like I'm just so jaw dropped at the relationships that you guys have made and fostered. And I think it's also what an honor, right? That you can reach out to them, but also they reach back out and being like, hey, the craft and the things that you guys are doing are very valuable. Let's bring you in on this project. Like, that's super cool. And you guys should take great pride in that. The other thing that's fascinating around a lot of things that you've said is Rick Rubin talked about this, the famous music producer. He says, if you're making things for other people and you're being maneuvered and your decision making is based on analytics or attention or whatever the external variable is, you're going to lose every time. Make it for you. And when you make it for you as a byproduct, people feel the passion, they feel the energy, and they feel everything in between. And I'll say, man, like that was a learning experience for me because similar to you guys had that relationship with CrossFit. You're making things to try to like satisfy leadership or whatever the assignment was for CrossFit. For me, it was like starting off doing those things for Invictus. It's like, hey, here are the different variables and here are the things that you have to fall in alignment with. Here's what you got to do. That transition from Invictus to the now, that was tough, man. Because I had to like re-understand me after 12 years working for another brand. How were you able to kind of spend time personally to better understand yourself and Heber's goals as you guys transition to making content for a brand versus making content for yourselves in the world?
Well, I mean, I think just what we're interested in now is a little bit different than what we're interested in, the past. Heber's doing a lot more endurance challenges. He's signed up for Leadville, which is a 100-mile race in Colorado. It all takes place over 10,000 feet. Like, that's a very different type of thing to be doing than Fran, you know?
Yeah.
It's a very different preparation, and it's something that he's really passionate about, you know? Like, he's also done Ironmans and stuff like that. Like, I'm not the guy to go do an Ironman. Like, I don't have any, like, I think about that and I'm like, do I want to do an Ironman? Do I want to swim? Do I want to dedicate the time that it takes? Do I want to go on 6-hour bike rides and not be able to, you know, spend that time with Sage and my family? I'm like, that's not for me. That's not what I want to do. But I support the homie that wants to do it. And, you know, I'll show up with a video camera to document it and be the support crew. You know, like, even the other thing he did last year, we did the Death Valley Marathon on the hottest day ever recorded. And that was like something that he had done in the past that he failed on, that he wanted to repeat. And I was like, this is your journey, and I'm here to help you along the way. You know, I'll give you electrolytes when you need them. And so there's just like things that sound like, you know, Heber always mentioned, you know, like, how can I improve my life resume? How can I do things that are going to bring me fulfillment? Some of those things are like super challenging. Some of those things are vulnerable. Some of those things are, you know, unpresented to us yet, you know? And I'm just constantly like thinking, how can I find things that are interesting to myself? Like, and back to that Rick Rubin quote, you know, it's like, in the world of TikTok and social media and the things that perform well and what you should be doing, it's easy to get caught up in that, you know. And I've been guilty of it, where I think that, you know, we should go do this video because I think it's going to perform well, versus like, we should go do this video because we care about it and it's something that we're passionate about, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tricky balance, especially with the way that YouTube evolves and everything, you know. Like, used to crush on daily vlogs, and now it's more like these wild, outlandish challenges. And I saw Casey Neistat talking about, you know, sensationalism and chasing that, you know. Like, David Dobrik would always go and have these like crazy, wild, sensationalist videos with the craziest thumbnails and stuff. And it's like, at a certain point, I think you're either going to have something really bad happen, or you're going to burn out on that, because you're not really doing the thing that is true to you and like what you're passionate about. So I'm not saying like I've conquered it or anything, you know. I'm just trying to like constantly trying to ask myself every day, like, is what we're doing of value? Is it fulfilling me in my own personal journey? And can somebody like maybe draw inspiration off of like what we're doing?
This episode is brought to you by our friends over at Bubs Naturals. Look, wellness can get noisy. There's tons of conflicting information out there. A million supplements, a million opinions. But what I truly appreciate about Bubs is that they keep things simple. Hydration, collagen, and creatine. Real tools that support real people trying to perform better, recover better, and simply show up better for their life. I use their products consistently, whether it's hydration after training, collagen to support recovery, or creatine for performance, strength, brain health, and longevity. These are staples in my routine. But what I really respect is the mission behind the brand. Bubs truly honors legacy, adventure, service, and living life fully. If you're an athlete, an entrepreneur, a parent, a weekend warrior, or somebody truly trying to feel a little bit more human in your body, give them a look. Use code ALLSMITH to support your wellness, your journey, and support what we're building here with the ALLSMITH podcast. Because feeling better isn't just about vanity, it's about capacity. And capacity changes lives. Make the rest of your life the best of your life. Yeah, that's beautiful, man. I love that. I also think, I don't know, for me personally, my dad said something 3 days before he passed away. He said, always be dating. And when he said that, he didn't mean like pursuing girls and all that stuff. He meant like always fostering meaningful relationships. And that was something to me that I was like, whoa, like as you get older, you have kids, you have a business, like friendships become a lot harder. I think it's one of the things that makes like church really valuable, CrossFit really valuable. Like you go to the same space consistently week after week and you see the same people and you get to chop it up around, hey, here's my life experience. Here's your life experience. Let's connect. Let's go grab a coffee. Let's go grab dinner or come over to the house or we'll come over to your house. It becomes this bonding. And when you look at, you know, I know Liver King got demonized based on the PED stuff, but like the 9 ancestral tenets includes bonding. It includes things like fireside chats. It includes things like having a meal with someone else. It includes sauna and ice. There's something about bonding, Marston, that I think is coming back. I mean, out here in San Diego, close to our house, they just opened a Blockbuster. And I was like, bro, that's so cool. Like, people want to actually watch movies again. Like, they don't want to sit there and, like, pull up Netflix. Everybody's scrolling their phone while nobody can make a fucking decision. It's like, no, we're going to go to the movie. We're going to or go to the store. We're going to agree that we're going to rent this movie. And because it's rented for 24 or 48 hours, that's like a parameter that's like, hey, we're going to focus on this and we're going to build an experience and have unique presence here. I know spending time with my niece, my brother's daughter, my brother's teaching her how to play Mario Kart. And it's like, man, some of my best experiences as a kid were like GoldenEye, Mario Kart, NFL Blitz, like Super Smash Brothers. Like, how dope is that? And so for me, I don't really care about my analytics on the podcast, man. I care about this. I want to have a coffee date or grab dinner or chop it up with a friend. And at the end of the day, I'm like, you know what? I know for a fact that people that I love and care about who have lost their lives said that they wish they did more of this. And how beautiful is it that we have Riverside or Zoom or a FaceTime, that we can do this with people that we care about? I don't know, man. Like, yes, the analytics, business, all that shit's cool. We got to pay the bills. The rat race is a real thing, sure. But you know what's more real, R-E-A-L over R-E-E-L? Connecting with somebody we care about. And so to me, it's like, I'm going to keep doing it. I don't care if I get made fun of or this, that, and the other. It's like, I want to chop it up and I want to be friends with people, even if I can't see them and life gets busy.
Yeah, 100%, man. Like, I think the world is starting to, like, crave personal connection and, like, going back to this, like, analog type of life, you know, because everything, as it digitized, it was supposed to connect people, but it kind of has, you know, I don't know. It seems like the younger generation, maybe because they never had that, you know, personal connection and everything was through screens, and it's like interpersonal communication is kind of lost on them and everything. And it's kind of interesting that we're kind of like the last generation that knew both sides of it.
Yeah.
You know, to have like stepped through into this new world where it's becoming inundated with AI, and it's kind of a very interesting thing how you've been given the world of all this technology, and it's almost off-putting at a peak, you know, once it gets to a certain point, you know. Like, I just watched speaking of movies, I just watched Have Fun, Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. Have you seen that?
No, but it's on my radar now.
Talk about a bizarre, it's like, it shows how everybody's on their phones and everybody's face is down and like the world's happening around them, but nobody's really noticing. And it's you know, it's a very interesting perspective on the world and how AI is gonna kind of, like, you know, there's a lot of things with even my own job, you know. I always thought, like, well, AI can't be creative, and you're like, oh yeah, it can be really creative, you know. It's like everybody's jobs kind of, it's coming for people's jobs. So it's like, what do we have at the end of the day? You know, I think we have each other, we have personal connection, we have like things like this, like you mentioned, you know. So I think that people are becoming hungry for that, because as AI takes over and as technology improves, I think that we have to foster relationships. And,
I think you're really keen
I'm
to pay attention to that. Tim Ferriss talks about it like, some of the best, most evolved minds in the world can kind of peek around the next corner. And I don't know, man, I just fall back on, I remember early on in like my fitness career, I felt like credentialism was everything. Like my brother's a doctor. If you have letters after your name, you could say, hey, I was formerly this. And, here's the education that I have. Here's why you should train with me or listen to me. I feel like modern day, all of that is kind of like, who cares how many letters you have after your name? Like I now, if anybody like signs tons of letters after their name, I'm like, I just want to know your name. I want to know you. Yeah. Because people will forget what you said. They'll forget what you did, but they never forget the way you made them feel. Energy is a real thing, man. And like when you go through life's peaks and valleys, the bullshit, the pain, you eventually get to the point where like you get humbled enough where none of that matters. And you're just like, you know what? Like I want to do dope things with dope people for as long as possible. And like I asked my buddy the other day who was in a pretty severe base jumping accident. I'll send you the video we made on him because it was pretty freaking dope. But his parachute didn't deploy. His spine broke into like 353 pieces, reconstructive shoulder surgery, ended up getting a traumatic brain injury. But ironically, this whole injury saved his life because he was going to have an aortic aneurysm. And I remember like he was in pursuit of trying to get a ring muscle up prior to the 1-year anniversary of his base jumping accident. This was back in like 2017. We did a pretty cool video on it. And I remember asking him like, hey bro, what is your goal? And he goes, Bryce, I want to do whatever the fuck I want, whenever the fuck I want to do it. If I want to jump out of a plane, or if I want to go skydiving, if I want to go race dirt bikes, if I want to go skate, if I want to do ring muscle ups, if I want to do Fran, if I want to do Diane, handstand push-ups, whatever I want to do, he's like, I don't ever want my body or my mind to be a limitation. And I was like, wow, how cool is that? And so in this transition for me, it was like, whoa, did I have fitness or did fitness have me? I was really fit, but was I healthy? I was 9% body fat going to the CrossFit games, but like my joints kind of hurt. Sex drive wasn't that great. Tons of anxiety. Always felt the need to train 2 to 3 times a day. And now I'm like, whoa, like just the other day we were like swimming, trying to find seashells in the Gulf. And it's like, whoa, like my body doesn't hurt. I can do this. Like, oh, we're going to go rock climbing. My right knee doesn't have patellar tendonitis from squatting 400 plus pounds. Like, I can squat 315 for a few reps and it feels good and my life is significantly better. When we're on a flight from Florida back to San Diego, I'm not like fidgeting nonstop because my, QL or my erectors hurt from a fuck ton of deadlifts. And so I think the question becomes like, are you more interested in fitness or are you interested in fitness creating a beautiful life? And that to me is where the messy middle is a little bit with CrossFit, where I think the original storytelling and narrative around CrossFit was like, hey, you can do this time efficient thing, you can connect with great people, and you can use this fitness to create a beautiful life. And over the course of time, it kind of became, well, your body's capable of that. What else is it capable of? You should be curious, like, well, if people are running a 5-minute mile and squatting 500, like maybe you should see what you're capable of, which is totally cool. And when you do that, it's like, okay, what do the other 23 hours within the day look like? Are you limping around? Are you having to sleep a certain way, eat a certain way? Like, what's your cognitive components associated with your kids and your job? I think the ratio just fell off a little bit. And that's not to say CrossFit is bad by any means. I think it's a beautiful 100 words of fitness. I just had Pat Barber on the show, and we talked about a lot of beauty within the CrossFit space. But I think the narrative and the marketing started to shift towards like, if some is good, more is better. And I think that's kind of just human nature. So I don't really fault anybody, but I'm curious your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I got into CrossFit because it was just like, I don't know, it was edgy, and it was this thing that like left you on the ground, like gasping for air, rolling around, And then as the sport evolved, it was like, you'd see what these athletes started doing every day, and it was like 6 hours in the gym and just running through the wall every day. Run through the wall, step into the fire, don't question it, just. And I was like, this is impressive, and I feel like what they're doing is impressive, but it's like, at what cost? It's like, what other sacrifices are all these guys making to just live most of their life in the walls of a gym, when there's like, I do the fitness so that I can do the things like you mentioned. Like if I want to go do rim to rim, that like I don't have the time to like specifically train to do that, but I've built up the fitness over the many years to be able to like, I think I have what it takes, even though it's like the biggest masogi of my life that I've ever done. I could go do it, or run up the hill in Japan for, a max effort, quick burst, or, any of the things that we do on our show that is very demanding. So my goal is to like stay in shape and do the things that can allow me to say yes to the opportunities that are presented to me. I don't, necessarily want to do those specific movements like handstand push-ups or pistols or a lot of the things that CrossFit is, the skills that it provides. I think that it's great if that's what people want to do, and what if they want to spend their time constantly going and competing and doing those things, like go get it, but like at the end of the day, I just do it so that I can go do things outside and have actually like real world experiences with people. It's funny how much it's evolved, and I was a part of that whole, like, I thought some of the coolest stuff at the CrossFit Games was when you would like show up and they'd have this crazy monstrosity of a rig built and this equipment you'd never seen, and it was like, they're gonna do what, like, so I've been a part of that. So I think it's been interesting to see, people kind of step back and maybe think like, is this the best use of our time? Is this what we want to be doing? It's constantly evolving, but everybody has their why, I guess.
Sure. I look back to some of the OG days, man. Like I had just gotten back from basketball in Sweden, and I was like, man, like if I'm going to be anything in this world, I should probably finish my degree. So I had like 20 something units left in my undergrad in exercise science. So I'm like going to school over at Cal State Northridge. I sort of got an opportunity to be a student assistant in the weight room with all the Division I teams. So I just like observed, assisted, cleaned up chalk, and was kind of like the janitor for that gym. And then at the end of the day, I was like, oh, like I get to go train at Valley CrossFit. So I'll drive over there. And my first coaches were Katie Hogan and Becca Voigt, and Chris Clever had just won the games. And I didn't totally like understand it. I would just like try to get there. And then like all the things I was learning in school, I was like, oh, I can like have this over here, which to me was kind of like a lab. I get the like active participation over here, and then I get to learn the energy systems in school. That's pretty cool. And so like we would go over there, and I just remember it was like that Rich Froning, Dan Bailey time where it was just like a mosh posh, where like they'd be like, I trained with Julian Alcaraz too, one of the co-founders of Street Parking. And so like all of us would be like, hey, what'd you do yesterday? Okay, cool. And like Becca and Chris and Katie were kind of like the experts. Every now and then Lindsay Valenzuela was around, and then there were like the young bucks like me and a couple other people that just were like, yeah, like I want to jump in. I want to see like, what this is all about. And it was before like super serious program design. It was kind of like the season of the Outlaw Way when Rudy was programming all the weightlifting. And then you started to sort of see like Comp Train and Invictus starting to put things out. NorCal CrossFit and Jason Kalipa too. But I just remember, dude, we would just like throw shit on a whiteboard, and it'd be like, all right, how'd that go? Okay, how'd that go? And it was just like this. The dialogue was literally like a master class in exercise physiology, exercise science. The amount of egos and brains and just body types that were in. I mean, you look at me versus Chris Clever. I'm 6'4". Chris is, 5 feet tall, maybe on a good day. But it's like, man, her gymnastics was so good. My like running and whatever I had from basketball was good. And then Becca and Katie were just so well-rounded. But the magic was like in the in-between. Like we do this workout and then we talk about it. And they'd be like, you got some more? All right, let's do another workout. hey, we saw this thing. Let's add that into the mix too. And it was just like, we were just taking ingredients, dude, throwing it into a fucking blender, blending it up and being like, let's go do something cool. And then we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
To me, that was so fun. Like that was the jam that like unlocked things. And like, there were some workouts where I'm like, whoa, like my fitness is getting better. And then 5 minutes later, we do another workout and I just get my ass handed to me on something. And it was just like, whoa, I got a long way to go. Like, and I think that feeling though, if you relate that to fatherhood to kind of close this loop and bring it full circle, I think kids should feel that. They should have boredom. They shouldn't have access to just like, here's the iPad, here's whatever. It's like, they should be able to go out and dig in dirt and play in the grass and fuck around with leaves and do things that are just like, hey, I'm trying to figure out this life thing and I'm kind of bored and I don't really know what to do. But based on that boredom, I'm going to innovate and create. To me, like what CrossFit did early on, other than create this beautiful definition and prescription and measurability of the sport of fitness, was they allowed this childlike mindset to be brought into a world that had all these rules of X's and O's from strength and conditioning. Like, you do this, this is how you get strong. This is right, this is wrong. And it's like, is it though? I don't know. Like, let's try some things and let's figure it out as we go. And that to me that curiosity was just, it was so beautiful, man. And I think you guys bring that energy into the Buttery Bros. And I very much have been a fanboy. I appreciate it. And as we look to wrap things up, man, what's the future of Buttery Bros? What are you guys going to be kind of tinkering with on the other side of recovering from rim to rim?
We got a few things coming up. We did this last summer, and this is a little bit different than our typical content, but we participated in a Red Bull soapbox derby. We built a car, made it look like a stick of butter, pushed it down Salt Lake City. There was like 50,000 people. I wrecked at the finish line. It was pretty, I'm surprised I didn't walk away with like a major injury, but I stood up and walked away from it, and we had a great time doing it. But then that got presented to us again, and so we're going to do another one, and we're going to actually expand the cart and put a second seat in there. Going to get Heber in, and we're going to go down the hill in Denver in a couple weeks. So that's like what we're kind of gearing up to do. And then this fall, I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but it's called the Taco Bell 50K.
Okay.
You ever heard of that?
No, but my wife and I were just talking about our nostalgic relationship with Taco Bell as kids.
Oh, well, if you're interested, you should come, because it's a 50K race, but you have to eat at like 9 Taco Bells along the way, and you have to eat specific items off the Taco Bell menu, and you have to keep your wrappers, and you have to like show proof that you ate these specific things to actually finish the race and get.
Taco Bell always goes down smooth, and you're like, man, this is phenomenal. It doesn't always come out smooth.
No. It's definitely a whole different, training regimen when it comes to that. I just saw that Taco Bell has subscription services now. So you can pay $52 a month and you can eat as much Taco Bell as you can handle.
Bro, that's the fattest thing I've ever heard. Oh, second fattest thing. First fattest thing I've ever heard was in college. One of my teammates at one of our like pregame meals went to eat like a chicken wing. My other teammate like tried to smack it out of his hand and missed, and he still took a bite, and he's like, "And one, motherfucker."
That's good shit.
So funny.
Yeah, there's that, and then Heber has an Ironman coming up at the end of the year, so he's getting ready for that, and there's a lot of things that I'm sure will get presented to us, and just like trying to always be ready for the opportunities that are presented, and not be able to have to say no because I'm not fit and I'm not ready.
Sure. If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready, and that's really impressive. Like I say that, and it's like, oh, that's an awesome quote for a podcast. But like the reality of staying ready for what you guys are doing, and like I've spent a lot of time with you guys. You guys are fit mofos. Like keep it going. It's Thanks, really man. Honorable. Like being parents and doing that. Like I will say, I feel like my body composition is better now after CrossFit. However, I train maybe 60 minutes a day, 4 to 5 days a week now. I feel way better. But I also have tremendous respect for the capacity that goes into doing what you guys are doing. Like, I ran a half marathon a few months ago, and like, bro, I was sore for like 3 days. My feet were hurting, blisters, the whole shebang. So to run some of these 50Ks, the rim to rim, staying ready for all these things, then also like you're doing right now, like the aftermath when you're a little beat up is not easy, especially while trying to be a dad.
Yeah, it's been, it's a journey, and, I'm just trying to stay, in it. I'm 38 now, my training is different than when I was in my 20s. I run a lot more now. I still do CrossFit, but I also do like just things that aren't going to beat me up too much. I'm not throwing around giant amounts of weight anymore. But I also I don't care as much to try and set, massive front squat PRs as I used to, It's funny how you just go through those seasons of training and different goals for different points in life,
For sure, man. Your maturity is inspiring. I appreciate you letting me poke the bear a little bit and get some knowledge from behind the curtain. Lastly, man, what's the future of CrossFit? What's going on there? Well, how does it stack up against High Rocks, World Fitness Project, DecaFit, Athletics, I think is what you mentioned. There's a lot of things out there. Out here in San Diego, we've got obviously F45, the Yard Gym, Performance 360. Like, there's a lot of group fitness models that, quite frankly, they remove some of the complexity. They give people the ability to look good, feel good, play good. Maybe vanity and sanity are the two things that a lot of people train for now, but what are your thoughts? Is CrossFit going to be able to hang on? Because it was such a beautiful thing for a long time, and it's trying to keep its head above water right now.
For sure. I think that's a big question everybody's asking, I think that, CrossFit hasn't really evolved for a little while. And I think that, they've gone through different management, different CEOs. They now have a new CEO. I'm curious to see what he can do. I think Bruce is a good guy. I'm sitting back trying to figure out like how they're going to continue to get people into the gyms and how they're going to evolve the sport. I think the biggest thing that they dropped the ball on, and the biggest reason why it hasn't grown, is because they haven't captured the younger demographic. Like, you go into a CrossFit gym, it's 30 and up. Like, do you see any young kids doing CrossFit? Like, I'm sure there's some out there, but I feel like the majority of who you see is the people that like came up in it and did it and believed in it, and they aged up with it. And the new generation are doing run clubs, and they're doing High Rocks, and I just don't see them in CrossFit gyms.
I think you're spot on. And I've said that from the beginning, in the sense of, I didn't grow up with a lot of money, so I could grab a basketball and go to the park and try to emulate Michael Jordan and other people that, I looked up to as a child. I'm probably not going to go to the gym and try to do ring muscle ups and some of the complexities. And I think where High Rocks is really capitalizing is like, you can walking lunge, you can run, you can burpee broad jump. You removed the barrier to entry, where now the younger demographic can do that, and they can be like, hey, I can play soccer on Saturday, or I can go be an active participant in baseball or track and field, or some of the sports that are a little bit more common for the younger generation. And that's something that I think is a very interesting variable to take into consideration. Like, what is the transferability to allowing kids to still be kids versus just fully marinating themselves and trying to learn the ins and outs of CrossFit and the skill acquisition?
Yeah. I think that, if you're a young kid and you have a chance to go to like a massive gym that has all these amenities, and it's like, I don't know, $20 a month, it's like, yeah, that seems pretty attractive when you're trying to go to school and take care of yourself and just live, and try and feed yourself, versus going to a CrossFit gym that is probably $200 or $300 a month. I mean, I think you get better coaching at a CrossFit gym. You're going to learn more, and you're probably going to be in a much better shape for doing that. But it's a sacrifice that, a young kid probably has to make. So I don't know how they capture that market. It seems like they've got a lot of work ahead of themselves. I also think that there's a giant online presence that is very divisive in that community right now. You know, I think that handing out all these no reps and criticizing people's movement when they're just trying to like do something and improve their day. And, you know, if I'm, you know, weary of stepping into a community because I'm intimidated maybe by the movements or by these crashing barbells or anything, but I do it and I'm vulnerable and I do it and I'm proud of my score and I put it online, and then you just have this mob of angry trolls that come in and attack you. It's like, maybe I shouldn't have gone that way, you know? So I think that there's this online, you know, angry mob, but I also think that there's, you know, the challenges of making it a inviting space like it used to be. I think that there used to be just like anytime somebody did something cool, people would post it on Instagram and people were like, holy shit, I can't believe you did that, you know? And I don't know when that shifted. I don't know like why it shifted. It seems like it's from my own perspective, it just seems like it's not as inviting as it once was, but there's great people. And I think that, you know, when you meet people in person, it's all good. It's just that some reason online people feel like they can criticize and judge others and they can tear people down for just trying. And that's a bummer, you know? And I feel like, you know, support people for putting themselves out there and stop, you know, criticizing when it's like, you know, in a competition, sure, like give them a no rep and tell them, you know, like, or tell them privately, but like this public crucifixion of people that are just trying to do what is best for their health and trying to take their own health into their own hands, you know, it's a tricky job. So as far as CrossFit goes, I mean, I think that it's a great product. I think that there's a lot of good that can be done. I think that their level 1 certifications are awesome. I think that the alternative to, you know, the traditional health and conditioning and all that, I think there's a lot of value there. I just think that, you know, they have a lot of things that they got to correct in order to make it apply to a broad audience and the younger audience specifically.
It's a really honest lens, man. I appreciate you sharing that, just because you're spot on. Like when you look at making a mistake in the early 90s, you know, if you and I did something wrong, it's like you dealt with it right there. Like you got the scrutiny from your circle of friends or from your parents or whatever, and then you learned from it, you moved on. Modern day, it's like if you do something, or if it's on the internet, or, you know, you post something, it could be 10, 15, 20 years and it recircles like, oh, you did this thing back at this time, which I have no context as to who you were or what was going on in your life, but we saw this thing, so we're going to spank you on the ass for it and just try to like really make it like you're walking on fire. And I think you're spot on, man. Like how cool is it? Like this has been a huge learning experience for me now that I'm outside of the CrossFit space, but still bringing a lot of the different tools and the methodology to this new space that I'm in. It's like, dude, sometimes people don't squat below parallel. Sometimes their lunges are a little bit off. Sometimes their lockout position is off. Sometimes they don't lock out their pull-ups. You have to pause for a second. It's like, okay, they went from nothing to something. Maybe they're not holding the standard of a full range of motion of what they're potentially capable of long-term, but they're in pursuit. They're on the journey. And the fact that they're doing this now versus nothing before means that they don't know what they don't know, and they're going to learn as they go. And I think to answer your question around why there's so much scrutiny online is I think the polarization gets clicks, and that is incentive. If you have incentive, you can backtrack and reverse engineer and be like, oh, now I understand why the behavior is the behavior. But I think going back to what you're saying is like, just be more human. We all have holes. We all have things that we struggle with. And when you're somebody that's putting yourself out there, especially getting into a place as vulnerable as a CrossFit gym where you really can't hide, you're exposed to the max, like how honorable and amazing is that? That in and of itself should be celebrated. So I think you're spot on, man. I think you and Heber bring a great lens. You've also made things very inclusive. I've been a recipient of that. I'm incredibly in gratitude to the both of you guys and Julian. If you guys are ever out in San Diego, please hit me up. I'd love to spend time with you guys. And Scale for life, man. That was also another one that I appreciated.
Scale for life.
Yeah,
dude.
man, I appreciated that because I was just in a season where it was just like, oh, if I scale, I'm less than. It helped me better understand granting myself and others the permission to be like, hey, we're going to use this fitness thing to enhance the quality of our life. So you guys are doing some very amazing, relatable things. Please keep it up. I don't want to keep you too long. The birds sound amazing. The sun looks good out there. I want to get you back to Caitlin and Sage.
Yeah.
Where can people find you, man?
Well, on YouTube, you can search Buttery Bros. We're almost at 300 episodes now. On Instagram, the same thing. My own personal handle is Marston Sawyers on Instagram. And that's basically where we post everything. I mean, I'm feel like I missed the TikTok trend, so I'm not really on there. So that's where you can find us.
I love it, man. Thank you so much for your time and your energy. Guys, if you enjoyed my conversation with Marston Sawyers today, please check him out. Check out the Buttery Bros on all the platforms. And honestly, today was fun, man. I really appreciate you spending some time with me. That Rim to Rim episode's going to be sick. Like putting yourself out there, doing something really hard. Very impressive. And as always, guys, stay on the hunt for who you've not yet become. Till next time.